But to be fair, if you want to have success in advertising, you do need the assets, especially on Facebook, because if you use still or static images on Facebook, your click-through rate, which is probably the most important number on Facebook, like at least forward indicator number, should be between like 0.8 to 1.2%. That's good. With a video, the click-through rate is about up to 3%. So you're already arbitraging again. So you should be using video creative as a default on Meta. And now for Google, naturally you put it over to YouTube. But these are the things, it's like, this is the price you need to pay for advertising. You just can't be a single channel person, and you can't just be like, oh, we're not going to use assets. Like, I run client advertising campaigns, spending only a few $1,000s a month, getting hundreds of leads, competing against really big competitors who I know we're significantly beating, because I look at their websites, their ads, and I'm like, they could be spending like literally 5 to 10 times as much as us. And I can guarantee we're getting better results just because we've fine-tuned the landing page they go to and the ad creative they use, and just the messaging, and just how we've segmented the allocation of budget allocation towards different channels and different placements as well.
Okay.
But you know, the thing is, I've been doing this for 10 years, man. So like, I know what to do. Like what I shared just then, if anyone did that, they could make a lot of money. The problem is, beyond that strategy, is the actual intricacies of doing it correctly. You know, the right settings, the right targeting, the right audiences, the right keywords. So whilst I can give that all away, and that's exactly what we do, the intricacies of it make the difference.
So maybe that's a good transition to wrap this up. Is what, let's say, not demand gen specific, not Facebook specific, but from an outbound cold targeting type of advertising and PPC approach, what are some of the most important keys to doing that correctly so that your ROI is not crap? Because I know that's a constant struggle when you start branching out. What would you see are some of the things on top of your head that are the biggest keys to success for that?
Do branding advertising like you're doing lead generation. Like, just treat it like the channel is a lead generation channel, not a brand awareness channel, because that's what Meta Ads essentially is. It is brand awareness because people are getting the visual element. And when you structure it like a lead generation campaign, you'll start getting leads. So like, put the ads in the channel that are more brand awareness, but structure it to be lead generation. So use lead generation type language, lead generation type creative assets, lead generation types of call to actions. And whilst you're naturally in the background building up brand awareness, because you're actually opening the opportunity and floodgates of lead generation. That's why I say to a lot of these big businesses, like, oh, but you know, we want to do brand awareness. I'm like, people seeing your ads is brand awareness. Like, don't you get that? People just seeing it. But by doing it in a lead generation structure, you allow yourself the opportunity to turn them into leads, which crazily enough happens. But I can say, the thing is, I can say that with conviction because I've seen it and do it so many times that it's just like, yeah, of course. Like, why wouldn't it work? But they don't know that. People come in with their lack of education and assumptions based on nothing, and like just a very small sample size of their own small experience, that it's really hard for them to consider that other platforms and channels done differently can have a significant result. So that's why, like, things like, once again with demand gen, I'm like, dude, if you could tell me like this works with conviction with the lead generation, I'm like, yeah, sweet, I'll try it out. But no one's shown me those results, or like with these prospects and clients, I show them other clients. So it's like the believability factor is really there. With people saying, oh, you should try these things on Google, I'm like, cool, super open to it. Show me your data, show me your results, show me some of the case studies. No one has anything. That's the thing. So it's all just like, for me, at least for now, based on my limited experience, no one's presented compelling data that is more superior than either Google search or Facebook prospecting. That's why it's like always open-minded, just need to see the data, because I've tried it out, didn't work. Doesn't mean that I'm like this, some sort of god of advertising. If it doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for anyone. But I need to see if people are trying to sell this idea to me, show me the data, because I'm not just going to blindly believe someone who's just hyping it up.
Quick thoughts or judgment on B2B LinkedIn ads for B2B?
Interesting. And thank you, by the way, I haven't even asked you any questions, man. Like you're asking me all the
I
questions.
told you it's a Q&A for Michael, the lead gen specialist.
Is LinkedIn does work if you do it properly. And up until about 6 months ago, I was like, nah, it didn't work. But it was because in the past, I've been doing LinkedIn at agencies with certain clients that probably weren't viable. And I was doing it because I had to, not because I got the choice to or thought it personally was viable. I'm
Yep.
running LinkedIn ads now for myself, for my own company. It's working. You've got to, it's the same as Facebook. You've got to have the right messaging, the right ad creative, video creative, and you've got to be targeting the right audience. And
It
you've
can be
just got to go,
crazy. Those
it's actually not,
CPCs might
man. Like,
be
cause
sometimes that sticker shock can be what they're used to display and they're
yeah,
in Facebook. They can go LinkedIn and go, oh shit, this is 3 times higher than what we're used
yeah,
to in a lot of cases.
but you can set a cost per click bid limit, which I
Mm-hmm.
have. And comparing it to Facebook, it's actually a lower cost per click because Facebook, I don't get to bid on it. And with the nature of Facebook over time, anytime you're going after B2B audiences in Facebook, the CPM or the cost per 1,000 impressions is really high. Like most industries, it could be between like $10 to $40 per 100 impressions. In the
Mm-hmm.
B2B space, it's like 50 to 100. Like it just goes to the next level
Yeah.
because you've got all these businesses with heaps of money, just like, everyone's trying to like one up in
That's
terms of
yeah.
advertising. So, for LinkedIn, I'm paying probably about $4.50 to $5.50 a click, whilst on Facebook, I'm paying about $9 a click. But at the
Probably
end of the day, it doesn't
depends
matter about the cost.
very
It matters
much
about
on,
how much money it makes you. And it's made us over
of course.
$200,000 in the last 2 months. So
Yeah.
that's why ROI reporting at the end of the day is so important because it's just basic cause and effect. How much did we spend on the channel? How much can we attribute back to the channel rather than there's a lot of forward indicators, but you've always just got to look at that last number. So LinkedIn, depending on the business, depending on the landing page, depending on the creative, it'll work. It's not the channel,
Mm-hmm.
it's the specialist running it and the creative assets available, the direct response copy used, and the landing page that's been created.
And the salesperson closing that
Oh
stuff.
man, of
No.
course. That's the most important thing,
Is
mate.
that the meta skill? It's the thing we
It
don't
is, man.
handle.
It is.
Yeah,
So
you can bring the
anyway, I
right
just
people.
spoke about
But
stuff for like 40 minutes, mate. What are your
you
thoughts on
did.
any of
You
those
did.
things on display demand gen for Google, other
Yeah.
platforms?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say the sort of things I wrote down, some of the main pillars I think to finding success there. I think one of the biggest ones that is not mentioned enough because I think the skill set is not there, and a lot of people that do what we do is being able to measure incrementality, right? So if you are just looking purely at in-platform data and you're saying how many impressions, what's our click-through rate, what are our CPMs, what's our CPCs, what's our conversion rate, etc. And you're just looking at those in-platform metrics. You're judging a demand gen campaign that you launched that's for cold audiences, and you're just saying, hey, it's been 2 weeks and we've spent, I don't know,
Yeah.
$2,000. We're not getting anything. And it's like, if you're just looking at it purely in that lens, it's doomed to fail probably 9 out of 10 times, if not 99 out of 100 times.
Mm.
And that's because you really need to know how to, if you can, and if you have the capabilities, you need to be measuring incrementality. You need to be, you need to obviously have a funnel mindset. You can't just say, we just want conversions, like just purchases, for example, right? Or just close deals, because that's
Yeah.
going to take a long time to figure that out. So some of the keys, it's going to be a longer timeline than you're used to. If you are just used to doing bottom of funnel search, let's call it long tail search or just commercial intent search, keyword based targeting, you're used to just doing display remarketing, maybe some branded search as well as some meta ads. A lot of the things that are going to apply, and this might be controversial, but it's a lot of the things that are going to apply from a general marketing principle standpoint with social advertising is going to also apply here on the
Yeah.
Google side. The targeting might not be as great as what you find on the social advertising side, but to a degree, this is sort of social, right? It's a
Mm.
very, very similar. This is imagery based advertising. We are
Yeah.
creating interest in something. it's going to be slower. Your expectations need to be a lot wider and less conservative than they were with your search advertising. So I think that is a big part of it. Timeline and expectations really need to be a lot more realistic than what you might have gotten used to. Any initial thoughts on that?
No, I agree, man. No, I agree. And the incrementality is really important. That's a really important number and metric for you that because you're so smart, you can measure. But most people can't. And that's the thing is then Google will say things like, oh, the incrementality or these growth things, and then you can't measure it. And once again, if your budget is finite, it's just challenging. Now, the other simple thing, this is just me with my little common sense brain. I'm like, well, if this stuff was so good, why aren't there agencies about it? Like there's Google Ads agencies for search. There's YouTube ads agencies. There's Facebook ads agencies. Why aren't there demand gen agencies? Just because things. Yeah. So, but I agree. Like it's, you do need to measure it over time, but you've got to have the actual ability to measure it. Now, what percentage of people do?
One.
Yeah, one, you.
1%.
And that's you.
1%.
Yes. Not even 1%, one. Just like a binary number. N equals 1. And
well, I'll be honest, if outside of like in platform Google experiments, quote unquote, what they call them, that's going to be limited at a certain scope. If you've never written any code in your life and you don't even know what an IDE is, you probably aren't doing a good job measuring incrementality. So I'll just start there to paint the context. You're probably not measuring it correctly. Just judging a time versus another time and saying whether it's successful, and you're probably going to say it's terrible. And that makes sense. And you probably think you're right on that. But there are other ways to measure this that are a lot more complicated, but it does require a good amount of data. So in terms of going back to expectations, expect to spend a lot to figure this out. And now a lot is very vague on purpose because everybody's going to be different. And this is true of Meta as well, right? I mean, sometimes it's going to take a week or two to get things going. Sometimes it's going to take a lot longer because you got to figure out where is the audience, especially when you're starting a brand new campaign or a brand new demographic you're trying to go after. It's not always going to hit right away. You gotta it's an iterative process like all of marketing. So just keep that in mind. Never forget that. The other things I was going to mention really fast to wrap this up, because I think we've gone on long enough, is really just, the importance of quality assets, making sure just like anything else, you are on top of excluding things. Make sure you're not just letting Google or Meta go wild with make sure you control the targeting as much as you can. Now, I'm not saying you want to have this tiny audience, because that's also not going to work. I like to start broad and refine it with data signals.
Yeah.
But don't just let it stay broad forever. That unless you've got to spend for that and the risk tolerance for that, which most companies don't actually have what it takes to do that. I would find a nice balance between the two, and that just takes some research and some data analysis to figure out these are our core audiences we should be going after. Now, if you have absolutely no data, that's a tough one. I would say you're going to have to start broad because you got to figure out what works, but go into it knowing it's going to take some money. And if you don't have that realistic expectation, it's doomed to fail anyway, because you're going to give up before it starts gaining any level of success.
And also with the definition of broad, it's based on the experience of the person. So Cory and my version of broad would be very more specific, because it's broad based on we've got experience. So we're like A, B, C, and D. Like everyone else might be like A to Z, and there's like 26 things to do. Our version of broad is like these 4 things that we know work really well, and it depends which one of those 4 works. So experience, once again, does come into play here, where you need to leverage past experience with the specialist, the company, or yourself, and start from the broad experience rather than just broad in general. Because most people, when they hear broad, Cory, will be like, all assets, all placements, all this, all that. It's like, no. Let's bring it back to like the fundamentals of like good structure and broadness within a good structure, not like broadness just with chaos involved.
Right. Yes. That's a very good point.
Because most people, mate, they ain't like us, bro. They ain't like us.
We're super special. That's why we have the podcast. We're trying to give you guys some of this special.
Yeah, guys, if you were special, you'd have a podcast.
Right. All right. Last thing I'll say, wrap this up, is also I talked about incrementality. The other thing you need to be measuring, probably out beyond the in-platform measurements, is attribution. Yeah, we talk about this ad nauseum because it's so important. And really, I think right now we moved from the topic. There was a generation of PPC advertising where it was like mobile. It was like it's the time for mobile dominance and whatever. And
Yeah.
we had this sort of wearables moment, and now kind of blended with mobile, and that faded. And then we went into performance max, and that was almost like it's a new generational shift somehow.
Yes.
But I would say now we're more in the age of attribution and solving for that, trying to figure out that age old question is, where should we spend more money, right? What's working, what's not actually working? Can we trust this platform's measurement? Probably not. You need to also have a deeper understanding of attribution beyond MTA, multi-touch attribution, right? You need to be able to measure those things. And if you don't, you're going to struggle to quantify whether a channel is working, whether a campaign is working, and how it's actually influencing the entire funnel and all of your marketing placements across channels. So anyway, wanted to make sure we were comprehensive in covering that. You got to have a lot of time, big timeline, wide expectations. It's so important if you're going to do this kind of thing. If you're going to venture into this type of marketing, brand awareness, cold audiences, you got to find the right person to work with. Most people will claim they can do this well, like everybody. Oh, I can do YouTube. I'll be the one that can do YouTube outbound cold targeting for you. They're all going to say that. Yeah. Just hire me or Michael, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, come on. Just don't be silly here. Come on, guys. Use your brains. Don't waste your money.
All right. Michael, anything else you want to add?
No, man. Let's jump into our next quick segment now.
Let's go. Okay,
so over time, I think I've reflected a lot on what makes a successful specialist or even agency owner, what helps someone get like extraordinary results for clients. And I think there's three skills. Number one, there's the actual skill of the work itself, the platform skill being Google, Meta, whatever it is. Number two is data, like reporting, actually able to understand data and do the reporting for it and all the other crazy weird stuff that Cory and I do. The third one, which isn't spoken about because it is a skill, but it's not like a technical skill where there's a checklist, is communication. And communication is the core skill because it will help you clarify things. It will help you be more specific with clients. It will help you set expectations. It will help you manage expectations. It will help you say no to ideas that are stupid. It will help you convince clients and stakeholders to take action on things that are important. And obviously, this could be a conversation we have for hours, but just a really quick conversation just to plant that seed is, look, the nature of the advertising industry is it's really based on a lot of introverted people, and introverted people, tend to be more analytical and also tend to just like communication may not be the superior skill over the advertising skill as well. And Cory and I were just chatting before this call just about, it's just some people, you're just born with it, or can you learn it, or like, what is it? Should you learn it? Yeah, I just think, I think some people are just born with it. The people born with it don't end up doing this work. That's the thing, because they're just out in the world doing, extroverted stuff. People like me, I can jump into being extremely data-driven, but then extremely like communicative, and like I can jump in between. And I think that's why I've been able to have quite a bit of success, because I've been able to communicate through video, through trainings, through leading team members and stuff like that. But I think the big gap in our industry is communication, because not that people aren't good at their work, it's just they don't know how to communicate with conviction of the quality of the work, what needs to be done. What are your thoughts, Cory?
I was just thinking ROI. And what I mean is at scale, if you want to do this yourself, you want to start an agency with or without employees, so freelancer versus an agency owner, at a certain point, you're going to have a lot of clients and or a lot of employees. Hopefully you have both if you have a lot of employees. Yes. And that is absolutely going to shift a lot of your skill focus around communication. Otherwise, you got a horrible agency. You got someone, you become the person that your employees can't really trust. They don't really think you know what you're doing. I tend to find those agencies become those sales factory agencies. They're just going through clients. They don't
Yeah.
care what your expectations are, what your spend's going to be, what your aspirations are as a business. They don't really care. They just want to get the deal done, get you
Get the
locked into a
money.
contract. Yeah, and then apply some terrible template they stole from a
Yeah.
course one time 10
Yeah.
years
10
ago.
years ago.
That's saying to do modified broad match or something.
Yeah.
It's I think you're going to get a lot of that. So just know that at a certain point, if you do not have those communication skills, it doesn't have to be you got to be some expert communicator. You got to go take a bunch of business courses. Just if there's no joy that you get at all with communicating with people, you're going to have struggles when you get a certain amount of clients and or
Yeah.
employees. To be successful, and you're really going to hate what you're doing. And just
Yeah.
think about that long term, whether that's something you want to get into. It's a core skill. You have to have it.
Yeah. It's a life skill. And look, it's all good. Most clients, most of the time, if you're clear with them up front, communication skill, they're fine. But it's what happens when there's a high stakes situation. You could have 20 clients and one of them starts like freaking out about something. Just because that's 5% of your portfolio, it will probably take up about 80% of your attention. And if you do not know how to mitigate that through communication, it's not, you can have all the SOPs and all the contracts and stuff. If you cannot communicate clearly, directly, and specifically to people and help them reassess where they're at, because most of the issues with advertising aren't the results. It's the people's perception about results, timelines, the quality, what scope of work. Oh, I thought you were doing this as well. All these things. Communication, it's such a simple word, but deeply mastered will make your life significantly easier. You won't need to speak to clients as much because instead of them emailing you 3 times a week, it's 1 call a month because you've communicated so effectively that there's just an unconscious trust they have with you, a deep relationship that's been built. So all these ways that they're trying to communicate with you, it's because like they're reacting to things internally, but they don't have that peace of mind. Better communication means that they'll actually communicate with you less and you'll get better results because instead of going, they're like, oh, let's do these 10 things. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I want to appease the client. You're like, they're wonderful ideas. Let's document them down and park them. But I reckon for now, we just focus on this one initiative for the next 2 months. And the reason why is A, B, C, and D. And from other clients, we've noticed it's worked really well. And we think it'd work really well for you. They're going to go, yes. And that's an example of me in literally 10 seconds. I do that all the time. Clients kind of come with all their crazy ideas. And if you don't know how to communicate and you go no to that, you seem like you're not collaborative. You seem like you're not a team player. And even worse, what happens if you say yes and you've got to do those 10 things that don't work? So all of these skills allow you to actually get more time back, create a deeper relationship, and actually do like just do more work that actually works and less of stuff that doesn't work. And just get better outcomes.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I was laughing a little bit because you were like say, if you get great communication, you just get it down to once a month. And I was just going to jump in and say, unless they're crazy clients, which sometimes no matter how great of a communicator you are,
Bro.
you're just going to get that client that just, oh man, they think you're an employee basically. And they want to talk to you.
I can pull that back. I've got the gift of the gab. I know how to do it. I know how to do it. Trust me, I know how to do it. But the thing is, do I? Because the thing is, I unconsciously filter people like that out. As soon as
I was just going to say, you don't work with those people, right? From the get-go.
Especially now. And you know what the thing is? Yeah. I'll even tell them that's why I'm not going to work with them. Like when people are like, oh, so why can't you work with us? I'm like, you seem like you're a lot to work with. Like you seem like you're going to be very involved. And they're like, no, what? No. And I'm like, no, you will be. And it's fine. But you deserve to work with someone who, will tolerate that. That's not me. That's not my company. The type of clients we work with are A, B, C, and D. And they're like, no. Like I'm this. I'm like, bro, I guess it's okay. Like I'm not judging you. I'm just saying we don't provide that type of service. So then, but that's even a communication skill as well. But that also comes from a lack of desperation. So many people want to get on clients just so they can get the money through to keep their business surviving. I get that. You need to pay the dues at the start of the journey. But when that time happens, when you're making enough money, you've got to say no to those deals. And even if you do let some of them slip through, because you're like, I can sense that I could probably sway them. You've got to be real direct with your communication. This is how we work. This is our scope of work. This is what we do it. As soon as they come out of line with that,
contract.
You bring back the, there's setting expectations, which everyone's like, set expectations. The thing I don't see people do is managing expectations, because clients will slip, man. They will
Yeah.
slip back into their ways. And you've got to
Oh
really
yeah.
just go, no, no, no. This is how we operate. This is how we operate. This
Right.
is how we operate, to the
Yeah.
point where they're like, okay, cool. I get it. This person's actually a person
Mm-hmm.
of conviction and sticks to how they operate. Because most people in business are just used to asking people for stuff and getting it, not maliciously. They're just like, oh, this person does my ads. Maybe they can give me some insights on my whole website and my SEO and my
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, just because like they're the digital person.
Yeah.
So it's a
And it
really
can be hard,
important
Michael,
area.
to tell, right? In the beginning, you're like, what if you're on the fence, right? They seem like they're going to be in the consulting world what we call a high touch client. And like,
Mm,
maybe it's not a good fit, but then you're like, well, can they get better? Is this something that just takes a little bit of education? How would you advise on knowing the difference?
ask them. We did
I
that
love it.
checklist a few weeks ago where the drop down is,
Yep.
do we think they're going to be high touch or low touch? You go,
Yeah.
like, this is how we operate. We probably do like, I don't know, like 4 emails a month most, just like kind
Mm-hmm.
of just touch points. Like, how often would you want communication? Like, oh no, multiple times. Like, we don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You could just like, I know it sounds so dumb and so simple, but it's just like, ask. There's no
Yeah.
like, the craziest way to do telepathy is by using
It's
words, by asking. It's just like, it's so
yeah.
crazy, all the things people do to try and avoid just to like ask the direct question. And look, it does require a bit of courage, but after a while, like you do it a few times, you're like it doesn't matter. Like I just ask people really tough questions, because I realize at the end of the day, it actually has nothing to do with me. It's all about them. And it's their problem, their business, their issues. I'm here to help, but I'm not here to like take on the burden of their life. I'm like, if they're emailing me 4 times a week, I'm like, bro, that's a you thing. That's not the business, or that's not the service
Yeah.
problem. That's just you being just like you. So, yeah, at the end of the
Well,
day, man, I think just ask. Just ask, hey, do you feel like you're a high touch client?
but
Why do you find this so funny?
The challenge, Michael, is that as well as I do that people think they're better
Lie.
than they are,
They
and they
lie.
lie. They make stuff up. They say, "Oh no, I'm not that type of person," and then you sign them on, and it's like every single day there's 3 emails, and
Yeah, but
it
then you
gets out
just
of
go
hand.
to the dude, you just go to them, hey man, you said you weren't going to do this and now you're doing it. I'm not going to be able to get back to these emails. I told you that. I don't have the capacity of that. If I did
Yep.
if I did know this, one, I probably wouldn't have taken on, or two, the scope of work would have been different. The scope of work is outlined to have, X amount of emails, communications per month. Maybe in the first month, a few more, but the
Mm-hmm.
scope of work is based on this. So,
Yep.
like, if this is what you need, number one, I need to assess if we can do it. And then number two is the scope will need to change, because this is
Mm-hmm.
not viable.
Yep.
And that's fair, because if they've told you some information and you've scoped it out based on that, and that's scope creep immediately. Like, I think sometimes people think scope creep is just purely on the service, but part of the service is communication as well. If you go in your line of service, we do these campaigns, and you've got one monthly call and like 4 emails a month. And I know it seems like you don't want to say like 4 emails a month, like it's like some credit system, but you're setting the expectation. Maybe if you don't put in the contract, you kind of say it, hey, we operate on maybe a few calls, like a few emails a month. When they're doing a few emails a week, you go, guys, well, okay, I get there's a lot going on at the moment, but how about we just consolidate these things? Send me an email once a month or like once a week, and we can get to it,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can get into a better routine. But like this capacity at the moment won't be able to do it.
You
People
know, you know
respect that,
who's I was going to say,
except assholes.
who's really, who's really good at this stuff, and it's just how you think outside the box beyond your like, PPC professor would get like all neurotic about like this narrow-minded. How should PPC people do something? But
Yeah.
expand your horizons. Look into how designers communicate with clients, because
Mm.
designers, graphic design, whatever, brand designs, they have to have a lot of communication with clients. It's a lot of like, again, an iterative process of, what do you think about this? Okay, should we tweak this? They have a ton of resources out there, whether that's on Reddit, whether that's just through blogs or courses, tons of communicating with clients and stakeholders for designers. Very, very, very applicable to what we do here in marketing and reporting. So just a quick tip, if you're looking for more resources, expand beyond just like PPC tips. Look at how designers work with clients, and
Yeah.
in communication specifically, you'll find a lot of good golden nuggets in there. One thing is some of them will charge per email. They'll say you get 10 emails a week.
Yeah.
If you go beyond that, we start charging this much per email,
Yeah.
no matter how much of the text is in there. It might sound harsh, but some clients really take advantage, and they just, again, they treat you like an employee. They're not used to working, or they just are assholes, and they treat you like you're an employee when you're not. You're a contractor, more often than not. So, Michael, we got to wrap up. We're out of time. I just want to wrap up by saying, if you're getting into this industry, you're starting, or if you are a business that wants to work with a marketer and you are looking at finding someone that can do this, look for, and what the skills you want to have specifically in communication is being able to explain what happened, why it happened, and what should be done next. That's really going to be a huge focus of your communication.
Bro, I was having this with my business partner, and I'll add one more. So you've gone, what happened, why it happened, what we should do, and why we should do it. So it's what, why, what, why. What happened, why did it happen, what do we recommend?
Yeah, what should be supported with why. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Dude, that's crazy you said that. It's such a simplistic way of communication. And guys, once again, listen to this. Most issues with communication come from a lack of trust and from the lack of relationship. If you're really clear on what happened and why it happened, people go, okay, he knows what's going on. If you give but if you just, it ends there, then what's next? Who does the burden fall on? Take the burden on yourself. Again, we recommend this, but then people go, yeah, but it may not work. Give a why behind it. Once everything has a why behind it, people unconsciously go into belief mode. So if you use the word because or anything like that, it will force people just to go, oh, they know what they're doing. Create less work for yourself, create less headache for yourself. Let's wrap it up there. Cory?
All right.